Welcome to another episode of Tarot by Hilary Live. I am your hostess with the mostest, Hilary of tarotbyhilary.com, professional tarot reader, demystifying the mystical and putting you in touch with the most beautiful of gifts, your own intuition. Because yes, my friend, do not argue with me. You have intuition. So for tonight's episode, we are kicking off a new episode series that was requested. And it was originally requested as a Dark Goddess series. But I am going to restate that, and I am going to say that it is going to be a goddess series because I don't necessarily want to argue with people about what constitutes a dark goddess or who constitutes a dark goddess versus a light goddess, because quite frankly, the gods and the goddesses, they all have different facets of themselves. They have sometimes different faces that people work with. And who am I to say what is a dark goddess and what is not a dark goddess? So I am just covering my bases and saying, let's just call it the Goddess series. And maybe we'll have a God series as well later on. And so tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about Hecate or Hecate, because a lot of people have been asking about Hecate. I say Hecate, other people say Hecate, potato, potato. We're talking about the same thing. And so that is the focus of our episode tonight. Now, I cannot say that I am a daughter of Hecate. I cannot say that I am a priestess or a priestess in training for Hecate, because I'm not. I have worked with Hecate before. I have had my own personal experiences with Hecate before, but ultimately, and we'll get to this when we talk more about Hecate, she was not the goddess that called to me the strongest. I do have a good working relationship with her, but I'm a Bridget girl. That's who my goddess is. That's who I am in training to become a priestess of. But that doesn't mean that I can't work with other gods and goddesses if the moment is right, and also if the correct respect is taken for them, and if the season or Sabbath is appropriate to work with other gods and goddesses, you can totally do so. You don't have to feel restricted in who you work with, as long as you understand why you're working with them, and also making sure that you're relating the deities with each other in such a way that they don't have conflicting energies. Because sometimes you have people that are just like, I don't understand why this god and this goddess didn't work together. And it's just like, because they are two polar opposite kind of gods or goddesses. And it's like mixing oil and water. Like, you do have to be understanding of the different mixtures and reactions that might cause. So I have heard of a couple of different people that have done that. I can't remember the specific gods or goddesses, but I do remember hearing the combination and going, ooh, yeah, and how'd that work for you? Not well? Yeah. So Katie is here. Let me go ahead and say hello to Katie. Hello, Katie. Nice to see you. One of the people requesting the Goddess series. Let me put my thing back up again. Welcome. So if you are unfamiliar with these episode series, these weekly episodes that I do, yes, sometimes we focus on tarot, but we also do have other metaphysical topics that I teach by popular request. I by no means consider myself an expert on everything that I teach, but I usually will research just enough so that I can present a topic to you and you can do your own research from there. The only expertise that I can really say is that tarot is my main squeeze, but I do enjoy other divination tools as well. So it's oftentimes I'm interested in something and then I take a poll and I find out that some of my regular viewers are interested in that very same thing. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so do we want to do an episode on this? And most of the time the answer is yes. So I have taught many things in this series. I have taught divination, like tarot, court cards, charm casting, spirit boards, and also we've been doing our Sabbath series as well, in conjunction with the work that I'm doing, my votary work that I've been doing to become a priestess of Bridget, is that Sabbath series, which is, a series of episodes that I do explaining the different Sabbaths according to the season that we're in. So if you're interested in that, next week's episode is the Sabbath series for the Sabbath of Yule. And actually, my coven will be celebrating Yule this weekend, or the winter solstice. For those of you not familiar with Yule, it's the winter solstice. So if you're interested in that, you want to tune in next week, Friday, December 17th, because it's the 10th today. So, but let me show the media, the schedule, because it is a relatively short schedule this month, because certain things are falling on certain Fridays. So let me go ahead and display that before we get into the regularly scheduled AstroBiz Digest at the top of the episode. So briefly, what I want to say, if this is your first time watching an episode, the structure of these episodes is I start off with some astrology from Teresa Reed, aka the Tarot Lady, from her wonderful AstroBiz Digest. Then we dive into the topic that I am teaching for that particular week. And then we finish off with a weekend forecast, which is either a tarot card or an oracle card that I pull that I give my interpretation on. And sometimes if the guidebook is awesome, I will read a little bit from the guidebook as well, to bring you into the weekend forewarned and forearmed. So that is the structure of the episode. So we will dive into the astrology right after I tell you the schedule of events for this month. So last week, Friday, December 3rd, we had our scheduling episode, which we basically lay out, here are the dates for the Fridays of this month and what are the topics that you're interested in. Sometimes we can schedule a topic around a certain National Day for Hot Dogs, or National Day of Gratitude, or National Letter Writing Day. So sometimes if it's metaphysically in nature, or if I can make it metaphysical or tarot related, we do a topic based on those kind of dates that come up, or seasonally, for example. And then we take the topics that you guys want to learn about and we just plop them into the calendar, and that is how we create the schedule. But I've been doing, I think we've been scheduling the episodes for about a year now, doing the first Friday of the month as the scheduling episodes, and basically doing it together so that you know the dates for the particular topic that you're interested in. And I think it's been working out pretty well. So last Friday, December 3rd, we were scheduling the episodes. Friday, today, December 10th, is Hecate, part of the Goddess series. It is the first of, hopefully many episodes that we'll be doing on different goddesses. And then this coming Friday, December 17th, will be Yule, which is part of the Sabbath series that I've been doing. And that will be the final show of 2021, because we will be off the next 2 Fridays, because I believe it is Christmas Eve, the Friday after that, and New Year's Eve, the Friday after that. So it is basically a 2-episode month, 3 if you count the scheduling episode. And then we will be back here Friday, January 7th for the first Friday of the month. Again, talking about different topics that you want to learn about, especially for 2022. That's not real. That's not a real year or a real date. So that is the schedule for the month of December. I cannot believe it. And I know that's kind of annoying when people say, oh, can you believe it's Friday? Or can you believe it's December? Or can you believe it's 2022? Well, I can't. So there you go. And we'll probably talk a little bit about like manifesting and New Year's resolutions, or what I do instead of New Year's resolutions for January. So January is probably going to be a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of abundance, a little bit of prosperity magic, a little bit of affirmations and manifestation. I think those would be good topics to tackle for January. Even though, keep this in mind, January is the start of the secular new year, the start of that calendar year. But if you're looking to manifest things, if you're looking to do spell work, if you're looking to make resolutions, you don't have to wait until the new year to do it. You can even start today. In fact, starting today might make things a little bit easier so that you don't have to start fresh on January 1st. If it works for you to start fresh on January 1st, then sure, do that. But sometimes the best day to start is today or yesterday or tomorrow. It's all up to you. All right. So as we're settling in to this episode, I'm going to start up the astrology in a second. But if you're tuning in live, feel free to drop into the chat where you're tuning in from. I would love to hear it. And I'm going to just do a quick tech check to make sure that everything is broadcasting correctly, because I am using my third-party app to do so. So I want to make sure everything is broadcasting correctly. All right. Looking good. I'm going to turn down the volume on this, otherwise it's probably going to blare. All right, live video. I think it's looking good over here. Gotta double check. Yeah, that looks good. Now, how do I shut it? Okay. And I got my YouTube notification that it is broadcasting correctly, but I'm just going to super double check. Yep, that's looking good too. Okay. Shut down. Shut up. Okay. We're looking good. All right. Is everybody ready for the astrology? Because I don't know. I pulled up a bunch of links that I'm going to be citing for Hecate, as well as some recommended books before I dive into some of my personal experiences with her. And also, if you've had personal experiences with Hecate, or if you are a Hecate kind of person, please feel free to drop your experiences into the chat too, because I would love to hear your experiences of how she's come to you before, or what kind of things that you've given to her, what kind of songs that you've sung, or work that you've done, or spell work that you've done, or help that she's provided. Put that into the chat too. I would love to hear it, because when we all share those experiences, I think it just becomes so much more powerful, our connections with deity, especially specific deities. And also we find these commonalities as well, where it's just like, it's very surprising sometimes. It's just like, oh, wait a minute. So we celebrated in two different places, but she gave you the same messages. Like, that's pretty cool. And it also can be a little bit freaky and creepy, but also very cool in the commonalities that I've found with other people that have worked with Hecate. All right, we're ready for astrology, which I think we are. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Aha. So let me pull up the crawler as well, or the reminder here. And just a reminder, oh, okay. Katie's ready. Katie's ready for the astrology. So let's go. Just a reminder that I get all of my astrology, or most of my astrology, from Teresa Reed's wonderful AstroBiz Digest. It is a $99 yearly subscription where you get astrology straight to your email inbox, and it is all written out in layman's terms, so that you have like, oh, this sign is on the cusp of this, or this is sextile this. So you get the astrology jargon, but you don't get just the astrology jargon. You get it in layman's terms as well, so that you can really understand what the astrology means. Now, the AstroBiz Digest does have an entrepreneurial or business like sense, because it is geared towards entrepreneurs or business owners, but I've also found it very, very helpful in my own personal life. So that link is in the chat if you're tuning in on YouTube, or my business page on Facebook. If you're tuning in from my personal page, I don't think I can share the links there, but I will display it on screen for you. It's just thetarotlady.com/AstroBiz Digest with hyphens between the Astro and Biz and Biz and Digest. So if you want to get your own subscription to it, I'm sure that Teresa would be over the moon about it. It's very, very helpful. Now, I only share the astrology from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just because I don't want to give away the farm. That's not my intention. I want to highlight Teresa's awesome work so that you can go ahead and purchase an AstroBiz Digest subscription for yourself. But I also want to give you a little taste of it so that you're prepared, not scared, right? So the overall for this week is none of the planets are changing signs this week. But this doesn't mean that the cosmic weather is calm. There are a few storms on the horizon. Bit of awareness goes a long way, which means you'll want to keep your eyes on the stars, but also on the public's mood. So that's the overall scope for the week. Nothing's changing signs right now, but there are a little bit of bumps on the horizon. Maybe not this week, but maybe the week coming up. So the nitty-gritty details, starting with today, Friday, December 10th. And remember, these times are all Eastern Standard Time. Please adjust accordingly as needed if you are not in the Eastern Standard Time zone. Because I know we have a few people that are international or on the West Coast. Me, myself, I'm on the East Coast of the United States. So Friday, intuition sharpens when the moon sextiles Uranus at 6:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This aspect lingers around for a few hours. If you get a funny feeling about anything or anyone this morning, you'll want to go with it. This aspect also allows for genius ideas. Be sure to take note of any flashes of inspiration. The whole day is peaceful and well suited for heartfelt PR campaigns and creative marketing. Shut things down at 8:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when the moon squares the sun. The public will be cranky at that time and the news cycle tense. Call it a night at 10:50 p.m. when the moon is conjunct Neptune, the perfect aspect for deep sleep and lucid dreams. Today, Friday, December 10th, is a power day for Pisces and a weak day for Virgo. So, just so you all know, I'm going to try and keep this episode fairly tight because of the astrology saying to shut things down at 8:36 p.m. So this is not going to be a marathon episode. We've had those in the past where we've done 2-hour, sometimes 3-hour episodes. We've gotten really in depth. If people have been able to stay on the entire time. Now, one of my New Year's resolutions, kind of, or from the last year, is to keep these episodes more tight to an hour so that you can get in, get out, get an overview of the topic so that you can do more research on your own if you're so inclined. So, and also, when I see the astrology gets a little wonky for Friday evenings, I am treading lightly or I'm making sure to finish up our workshop before then. just because I don't need the hassle. We've had some trolls in here before. If you've been a long-time viewer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Fortunately, things have been pretty chill in the last couple of months, but hey, you never know. I would prefer not to court disaster. So everyone good for Friday before I move into Saturday and Sunday. All right, moving on to Saturday and Sunday. Saturday on Sunday. The moon will form favorable angles with Venus and Pluto around 7:52 a.m. on Saturday. This is most excellent for PR, intuitive hits, and making art. Do not schedule meetings at 10:33 a.m. when the moon squares Mercury. You won't be able to sway anyone at that time. Also, the public is distracted, making it hard to get attention to your work. Things improve when lovely Venus conjoins with Pluto at 11:29 a.m. This aspect is divine for any artistic endeavor and powerful PR stunts. Make a splash, take a stand, get all the eyes on your biz. Please adjust accordingly. I told you it's geared towards entrepreneurs and business owners, but it can be helpful for your personal life too. Mercury sextile Jupiter at 2:24 p.m. is splendid for pitching the media, sending in book proposals, online marketing, and popping out a newsletter. This is followed by a void moon at 2:40 p.m., a short spot for catching your breath. Once the moon zooms into Aries at 4:46 p.m., you've got 2 good days for launching new things, bold PR campaigns, and all of the sales. The best spot for getting in front of the public on Sunday arrives at 11:50 a.m., again, Eastern Standard Time, when the moon sextiles Saturn. A live stream at that time could inspire folks to buy. The rest of the day is yours for high-level meetings, conjuring up rad new offerings, and getting people excited about you. Yay. Saturday is a power day for Pisces and a weak day for Virgo, and Sunday is a power day for Aries and a weak day for Libra. Whew, okay. And I'm assuming Katie's saying all good about ready for Saturday and Sunday. So you got it. You've got it, folks. So before we move into the topic of Hecate and the Goddess series of episodes, I do want to open up the floor if you're watching and you had a particularly hinky day, maybe Monday, maybe Wednesday, and you were kind of wondering, I wonder what the astrology on that was. To kind of explain that situation, you can totally go ahead and do so in the chat, and I'll take a look for you, and then we'll move on. So let me know. I'm going to put on my countdown timer, my countdown widget. If I can find it here. And Hecate in a minute. Yep. Let me do a minute. Put a minute on there. So now's your final call to ask me about astrology before we move into Hecate. So based on the astrology, Katie's saying it's a quiet weekend for me, I think. I hope so. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm looking over Monday's astrology. It's like, yeah, I got a lot done. I was very productive on Monday, but I think it was because, Monday had a Capricorn moon, and my my ascendant is Capricorn, so I think that's the reason why I got a lot of shit done on Monday. Oh, so I think we have a new viewer here. Hi, Phil. Hello. Thursday was an interesting day for me. Okay, let us look at Thursday. Okay, so Thursday was Moon Jupiter conjunction at 3:53 a.m. And that's you getting up, waking up with brilliant ideas. Hopefully, you wrote them down and then hit the snooze button. Moon void at 5 a.m., so rest is best. Muse is ready to sing once the moon slips into creative Pisces at 9:53 a.m., conjuring up new programs and offerings, making art, updating web design, writing new content. This energy does linger around for a few days, so use it wisely. Moon in Pisces can bring a lot of emotions as well to the surface, so be tender with yourself and others. Put self-care on the menu and don't forget to rest. And Thursday was a power day for Pisces and a weak day for Virgos. So I hope that helps to clarify a bit on Thursday. Also, I don't know what your time zone is, but those times were Eastern Standard Time. I already did Fridays. So, but thank you for asking. There you go. That was for Thursday. So I know Katie is viewing as well. Katie, did you have any weirdness or interestingness before we move on to Hecate? Oh, awesome. Great. So Phil says, yes, thank you. Very helpful. Awesome. Great. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to take this down. And I'll just wait for that comment to show up. I'm really glad that I upgraded my Be Live. The comment assistant has been very helpful to push up comments so I don't have to do it all manually every single time. So Katie says nothing for me. Okay, awesome. So I guess no news is good news. All right. So we're back again and we are talking about, I'm going to pull up the schedule again. Tonight's episode is about Hecate, which is part of the Goddess series, which is something that a couple of you have been requesting. Ooh, I didn't know I could show 5 things at once there. Very interesting. Okay. So a little bit about Hecate, and I'm going to cite from different places and spaces. This is by no means a comprehensive list. I'm going to mention some books, some resources for you to do research at the end of the episode. Of course, I'm not going to say where to go now because I don't want you to leave before I send you on your way with some of the information that I have about Hecate. But I always want to do these episodes in such a way that I give you enough information so that you can get started on your own research if the topic is interesting to you or personally significant for you. So I do know that there are I have quite a number of friends that are devotees or priestesses or priests of Hecate, and their experiences have been very interesting. So if they happen to be tuning in live and I say something that is not their personal experience or not what they associate with Hecate, just keep in mind that there is a difference between personal experiences and, research and history of what the deity has meant to people over the years or over civilization. So, and, history and research and your own personal experience are 2 or 3 very different things. So please keep this in mind as you're working with deities, not just Hecate, all deities. You're going to do your research, read your books, sometimes know where your sources are coming from as well. Take some things with a grain of salt and also pepper in your own personal experience. Because for me, witchcraft has been a very, I want to say, I read a lot of books and I'm taught, of course, by books. And I was solitary for many years before I found the pagan community that I worked with and before I found my coven. So I learned a lot of what I knew about witchcraft and spellcasting and deities from books or from the internet. And sometimes that can be very dry and almost clinical in a way. But I did find that once I started to make the effort and create a personal connection with deity, that's when things really started to take life and take shape and really brought breath and spirit into my practices, because that's when things really came alive. It wasn't really dry and boring anymore because I started to create my own personal experiences with the deities that I was working with, Hecate being one of them. And also, this is the same thing that I recommend when you're working with tarot or with any divination system. It is your, like, learn the rules, of course, do your research, learn the rules, so that you can take those and then start to forge a personal connection. Because in the personal connection with the cards or with the divination system, that's when intuition and divination truly become an art rather than a science. Does that make sense to everybody? It's just a general caveat I'm going to make before we dive into really the goddess series that we're going to be talking about and working with deities and giving an overview of some of the gods and goddesses that I've worked with. And again, I really want to encourage you, if you have a personal connection or a relationship with the deity that I'm talking about on the particular episodes that I'm going to be doing for the goddess series, drop it into the chat if you're tuning in live, or put it into the comments if you're watching the replays of any of these, because I would really like to know. And I really do think that the research is great and writing things down is great, but also sharing the personal experiences can be so gratifying and rewarding, because sometimes you see, both in the commonalities and the differences in experiences, you learn from those, and you also learn from the in-betweens as well. So I'll stop waxing philosophical now and give you some general information about Hecate. And I've got a ton of links. I mean, Hecate is a very, very popular goddess lately, and she's been popular for a number of years, and it only seems that she's gaining more popularity as the years go on. There's a little. It's a little joke that I have among some of my friends that are part of the pagan community or the witchcraft community, where it's just like, does it feel like Hecate and Bridget are like raising armies? Like, do you feel like they're gathering people together, like gathering up their people? Because it just seems like everywhere I turned, one or the other of them were like claiming people as their own, like, oh yeah, you're mine. Okay, you're mine too. All right. And just gathering people up. So let's see here. I've got a ton of links. And hopefully I won't completely destroy my my internet connection by opening them all at once. Got a bunch of them. And I'm sure from the different places that I'm going to be citing from, we are going to be hearing commonalities. That's just what happens. So hopefully I don't repeat myself. Hopefully I don't repeat myself too much, but if I do repeat myself, it's just to emphasize the commonalities that people experience when they work with Hecate. So Katie says, maybe the world needs those armies. Yeah, that's like the common thought process that we had when we were talking amongst ourselves, like, what's going on? And then also, I don't know, I think I might have mentioned this in previous episodes, but I have talked a little bit about trance prophecy, which is basically ritual possession, in which someone takes the chair and is trained to bring through deity, so that people can speak with deity one-on-one. And when Hecate has come through, different people, different parts of the world, the question, they would be asked the same question just so that there can be, I don't know, I guess it's like the scientific method to magic, just to have like this common factor, or like the control group or whatever, the control question. And it was truly Hecate coming through, because the same question, they would ask the same question and she would refuse to answer. And just like, I'm not telling. And she would just refuse to answer the question. So statistically, it was interesting to see that it was just like almost like 99.9% was the I'm not telling response. So, but there was definitely like some of the flavor of the questions was like the gathering of people, and she kind of had this like coy, like people would ask like, what are you up to? And just like, I'm not telling. But yes, you're right. Maybe the world does need those armies. So who is Hecate? Hecate to some, Hecate the others. So Hecate with a K to some, Hecate with a C to others. She is the witch mother. She is returned. We have awoken. This is from keepingherkeys.com as one of the resources. I'm sorry, I'm getting messaged right now. Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure. Never fails. Again, some of you that have been watching these episodes for a while, at the very least, my mom did not call me on the landline tonight. She's out at a party tonight. So, but she did manage to text to interrupt. So, okay. Hecate is a complex goddess with a long history. She is the goddess of witchcraft, a guide along the path, and the universal keeper of the keys. There's much to learn about Hecate from written records, but for a witch to truly know Hecate, we need to experience her. Kind of a little bit about what I was saying before about personal experience. She is a psychopomp, the guide who leads us back to our soul. She is a face of the Great Mother, creatrix and destroyer of all. Fearless guide who resides in spaces between the world of humans and the world of spirits, offering us a way for spiritual transformation. A lot of people who work with Hecate talk with her about, or talk about her as that keeper of the crossroads. And if you don't mind me singing a little bit, I can probably sing some of the things that we've sung in order to bring her into our circle. But we did sing. Actually, it didn't take much to bring her, though, for Samhain. We typically do bring her in during our Samhain celebrations, which I think I touched upon a little bit during our Sabbath series for Samhain episode. But one of the songs or the chants that we've done for her is, I'm going to pull it up because I don't want to mess up the lyrics while I'm live here. So give me a second here to find it. Usually it comes to me in the moment though, but I don't want to mess it up right now. Here. Hecate, keeper of the crossroads, Hecate, holder of the flame, Hecate, wisdom of the darkness, guide our way, guide our way. I don't want to do it too many times, but the words are Hecate, keeper of the crossroads, Hecate, holder of the flame, Hecate, wisdom of the darkness, guide our way, guide our way. So some of those aspects of Hecate are there in the song. Keeper of the crossroads, holder of the flame. She is also known as a torchbearer. Hecate, wisdom of the darkness. She also is a keeper of keys. walker between the worlds as well. So those are some of her aspects in that. She resides at the crossroads where we transcend the material to dive into the unseen river that is her realm. For all her otherworldly roads, she is also Enodia. I'm probably butchering that, and I apologize. Enodia, which translates as the way, but symbolically refers to her powers over the civilized world, including roads and perhaps even waste management. Thus, her medicine is that of both the world of spirits and the mundane. Hecate's witches have always been associated with magic, medicine, and mystery. Those associated with Hecate are sorceresses whose herbals bring healing or poisoning depending on her needs. Hecate's eternal daughters Medea and Circe brought forward the practice of pharmakia, plant spirit medicine. In early myths, these stories are of healing, while the later ones twist their tales into spiteful vengeance of out-of-control wild women. Her archetypal keys represent the opening to the mysterious and her guidance along our earthbound journeys. She is the anima mundi, the very soul of all creation. Hecate in darkness, Hecate in the dark moon. Goddess of the witches, necromancer, healer, terrifying queen of the underworld. And the history of Hecate is the history of women, especially for those who are deemed witches. For some of us, we truly are, but many of the women persecuted were not. They were still simply independent, unruly outlaws of their times. Because of the entwinement between how Hecate is portrayed in historical records and the patriarchal disempowerment of women, there is a necessity to step beyond the history, to learn from our ancestors, and to listen to our souls. History provides rich detail while reminding us that we must always be wary of the powerful. Torch-bearing goddess of the underworld. During this time, her image as a goddess of the underworld was also born. In the Homeric hymn to Demeter, Hecate answers Persephone's cries when no one else would. She becomes Persephone's guide between the underworld and the human one, using her torches to light the way along the journey. Hecate as a torchbearer or lamp carrier became one of the more dominant themes of her depictions during ancient times. Governance over the fates, trimorphous, Hecate as a triple goddess. Now, this aspect of triple goddess is not quite the triple goddess that you might be familiar with maiden, mother, and crone. I think it's more different aspects or different phases of herself rather than being maiden, mother, crone. I think that's a common misconception about Hecate that a lot of witches who are dedicated to Hecate are trying to address or correct. So Phil says, hold on, I'm trying to get this shown. In some of the images I've just seen of her, she has 3 faces. How does this relate to her as a goddess? I think I just answered your question. I might be psychic. Does that answer your question, Phil? I can talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, I feel like those 3 faces, it gets misconstrued with the concept of the triple goddess because it's 3, but I think it's 3 facets of her skill set of what she does rather than maiden, mother, crone. Does that make sense? Let me know if it doesn't make sense. And please ignore anyone that's soliciting readings at this time in the chats. I don't know this person. I can't vouch for this person. And also it's really, really shitty to do that on somebody else's live stream when they're trying to teach. So yeah. Okay, great. Phil says, great. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah. That was something that I was just like, oh, like I didn't want to have to teach that, but I also know, like, I've got at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 people that I know that are dedicated to Hecate that have been like trying to address that issue where it's just like, oh, triple goddess. Like, no, she's not triple goddess. She's triple faced. She's not a triple goddess in the way that most modern witches think of the triple goddess, which is made her mother crone. So I got you, Phil. I got you. Okay. So this particular page, Keeping Her Keys, says that Hecate, Persephone, and Demeter form one version of the triple goddess. The triple goddess to the ancient writers represented the power of transformation, the ability to shapeshift, and the seasonal progression. In this way, the triple goddess is triformous, three-formed, and trimorphous, three-morphed. The triple goddess also represented the 3 visible phases of the moon. Thus, Hecate, as part of the triple goddess, was often associated with Selene, lunar in Latin, and Artemis, Diana. So, Hecate herself might be part of a triple goddess, but she is not triple goddess made a mother crone. Hopefully that helps to clarify rather than confuse. Hecate and the moon. To the ancients, the moon was under Hecate's domain. In addition to her association with the dark moon, she was revered as a moon goddess. The moon's deep association with women in witchcraft and the goddesses of both further illustrates the complexities of Hecate's vast powers. Historical Hecate origins in Asia Minor and parts of Eastern Europe. From these regions, her cult spread to ancient Greece, where she was viewed as a titan. Unlike the rest of her titanic pantheon, she wasn't killed by the upstart Olympians. Instead, Zeus gave her dominion over land, sea, and sky, according to Hesiod's Theogony, approximately 8th century BCE. The ancient Greeks worshipped Hecate in various ways. Notably, she was seen as a matron watching over households. It is from this role that the common contemporary practice of giving her offerings on the dark moon grew. In ancient Greece, a Hecate supper was left out, usually at a 3-way crossroads, to seek her favor over a household for the coming month. Her association with the number 3 extended to her being viewed as a triple goddess. But yeah, she has had many roles. She's seen as a liminal goddess standing between worlds, particularly at the threshold of life and death. She was given many, over 200 epithets, including Mother of All, Queen, Liberator, Mistress of Corpses, and World Soul. The variety of the titles bestowed upon her by the ancients often appears contradictory. That's part of the reason why it can be so difficult to understand Hecate, because oftentimes the things that are told about her, or the things that you read about her, are contradictory in nature. Yes, I think so, Katie. So Katie is asking, is she called a dark goddess more because she is associated to the dark moon more than she is dark? I think so. And also I think as well, like some of her facets can be considered dark or taboo in nature, like being a walker between the worlds, being associated with the underworld or the torchbearer. These are often concepts or topics that most people find difficult or don't want to talk about because it reminds them of their mortality. You know, being a birth doula or a death doula. There are people that work with Hecate that also perform those jobs or those roles. So yeah, I think it is that association to the dark moon, but also towards topics that are considered more taboo or more dark in nature, or what most people find to be dark. I think that is the reason why she is considered a dark goddess, or considered a dark goddess by some. But that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking that. We need to keep in mind 2 things. One is that the ancient writers held vastly divergent views of Hecate, and the other is that Hecate has always been a complex goddess with multiple roles and abilities. As patriarchy grew in power and as Christianity spread, Hecate was redacted, defiled, and minimized by those in command. While she was once Hesiod's all-powerful goddess to whom Zeus succumbed, she became an evil crone. So there's a lot of ancient writings about ancient Hecate. If you're interested in reading more about ancient Hecate, there are many ways to go about this. You can sort through translations of the Greek magical papyri or the Chaldean oracles, or Sarita Diesti's book Circle for Hecate provides a great summary of historical Hecate. There's also early Christian era, 20th century Hecate. Oh, good. This article in Keeping Her Keys also talks a little bit about maiden mother crones. Somewhere along the way, Hecate as a crone became commonly held belief among neo-pagans. While the veracity of these applications of Hecate have been debated, there is ancient evidence that solidifies her as a maiden. Her role as a mother is reinforced through ancient epithets such as Pamitor, and there are a few tales portraying her as a biological mother. Accompanying this new application of Hecate's ancient characterization as a triple goddess was a Wiccan association of her with the moon. So there you go. And that's how things change and get conflated and get weird. And, you have to always keep that grain of salt in mind and remember your sources, and also remember, like, okay, well, what's the intention of the source? What's the intention of making her into a crone? It might be to vilify her. It might be to take away her power. So, keep that in mind. There's a lot of information out there. Not all information is good information. So really make sure that you research. Yep. As part of the triple goddess imagery, she was often celebrated as the wise woman. In her dark goddess incarnation, she could be given homage as queen of the witches and summoned for certain types of witchcraft. Feminist scholars and goddess reclaimers began to speak the truth of Hecate through their rituals and writings. The modern contemporary understanding of Hecate was greatly informed by the scholarship about her ancient origins that occurred in the late 20th century, notably S.I. Johnston's Hecate Sortera. And again, I might be butchering these pronunciations, so I'm very sorry. Please correct me if you need to. As the 21st century began, other writers were presenting alternative ideas about Hecate too. Thomas More wrote of her in Dark Nights of the Soul. This is one example of the many deeper explorations of Hecate. So that's just one article about her. I have many others, but that gives you a really good overview. I'm going to move on to I'll mention different sources or different reading at the end of this particular topic. I'm going to close out of that. Tons of information. All right, I already said that. Oh, yeah, we haven't even talked about the hounds either. Let's talk a little bit of the hounds. Goddess of moon, of the underworld, and of magic. I'm now citing from witchesofthecraft.com. She's considered the protectress of flocks, sailors, and of course witches. She is the protectress of faraway places, roads, byways, crossroads. Considered a goddess of the crossroads. Statues of her stood at crossroads where travelers were faced with three choices. So three crossroad with three roads. In latter-day paganism, hecterions, a form of pillar, depict the goddess with 6 arms, 3 torches, and 3 sacred symbols: a key, a rope, and a dagger. With the key to the underworld, Hecate unlocks the secrets of the occult mysteries and knowledge of afterlife. The rope symbolizes the umbilical cord of rebirth and renewal, and the dagger or athame is a symbol of ritual power. Carries a burning torch in accordance with the belief that she is the nocturnal goddess of the moon. A huntress, she knows her way into the realm of spirits. She is depicted wearing a gleaming headdress of stars. All secret powers of nature are her command. She has control over birth, life, and death. Her work includes the world of the dead, of the night, and of the darkness, and she is the mistress of all of the witchcraft and black arts. On her walks at night, Hecate has many accomplices. Her 2 black, ghostly dogs, who have been sacrificed to her, her priestesses Circe and Medea, are sometimes referred to as being her daughters. She can be seen walking the roads of Greece with her howling dogs and torches. The black howling dogs at night mean that Hecate is approaching. She and her dogs journey over the graves of the dead to search for souls of the departed and then carry them to refuge in the underworld. She also haunts the scenes of crimes as a goddess of expiation and purification. She can be called upon during the dark of the moon to banish or render justice. So those are some of the symbols associated with her. And we definitely had the Hounds of Hecate at our Samhain ritual. More information can be found on that in the Samhain episode in the replays playlist on both YouTube and also in Facebook Watch. Let me see. Don't need that. Talked about astrology. This is a wonderful article called Hecate, 13 Ways to Work with the Goddess of Witchcraft. I actually want to put that toward the end before we talk about books. Hecate's name may have several possible meanings. She who works her will is the most commonly accepted, but the far-off one or the far-darting one is also suggested. Such names suggest that her power is far-reaching. An alternative derivation, most shining one, is borne out in representations of Hecate from the 4th century BCE, which show a young goddess of both beauty and power carrying a torch and wearing a headdress of stars. Hecate is the female equivalent of Hekatos, an obscure epithet of Apollo, with whom she is sometimes associated. The Olympians adopted her after they had defeated the Titans, but she was not of the same kind and never lived amongst them. So this is another association with her otherness. During this time, Hecate's power was still recognized, and Zeus gave her dominion over heaven, earth, and sea. And they shared the right to grant or withhold gifts from humanity. Actually, I'll cite that a little bit later. No, never mind. All right, so some of the ways to work with Hecate, I'm going to go ahead and read the Orphic hymn to Hecate, which I've done in the past. And actually, some of the Orphic hymns, you can find more information about Orphic hymns and the particular god or goddess that you want to see if there is an Orphic hymn to. Just type in Orphic hymn and then the name of the god or goddess into, your internet search, your preferred internet search provider or browser. and you'll probably be able to pull it up. And this is actually a tip that I got from, I believe, Carolyn Elliott, who was the editor-in-chief of Bad Witches magazine, which was kind of an e-magazine or internet-based, browser-based magazine, which I think is just called Witch. And there's a lot of really great articles. And I've also taken some of her classes with Carolyn Elliott. And so some of the concepts that she introduced about working with planetary influences and having combining Eastern and Western philosophies, it's something that I never really saw taught before. So some of the ideas can be kind of far out there, but one of the things that she mentioned was about Orphic hymns. And so I started to integrate that into my practices, and I also introduced that to some of the coven or witches that I was working with, and I was just like, hey, listen, I read the Orphic hymn to this god or this deity while I gave an offering to them, or while I was working in circle with them. And it's just like, and they showed up. They seemed to really like it. So I'm really appreciative of that practice that I do. So that's just a tip from me to you. And that's also one of the ways you can invoke them. One of the ways that you can invite them or work with them is to read their Orphic hymn. Phil says, I thought the name was familiar. Hecate is mentioned in the play Macbeth. English literature classes have come flooding back. Yes. So, yeah, I mean, Hecate or Hecate, I mean, there might be modern witchcraft that we're talking about here, but many of the gods and goddesses that we'll probably be discussing in future episodes, they all have historical roots. And so Hecate was known to Shakespeare. She was around in Shakespeare's time, because ultimately what I find to be true about working with gods and goddesses and deities is that they're almost created from the archetypes that we give to them. And we layer upon layer based on our personal experiences so that they become what they are. Like humans kind of created them. So as long as humans have been around, the gods and the goddesses have been around. And also keep in mind what a lot of witches believe is the spark of divinity is within all of us. That is one of the harder concepts of being a witch, is realizing that divinity is within every single one of us. I mean, it's really easy to remember when you're talking with like your best friend, but it's really hard to remember when you're talking about your worst enemy, because the spark of divinity is in all of us. So, but yeah, Hecate was around and kicking in Shakespeare's time. So look past into your English literature classes to find the gods and the goddesses, and you'll be really surprised at what you find. Good note. Thank you for mentioning that. So the Orphic hymn to Hecate, and I'm not actually invoking you at this time, but I mean, hey, if you want to come in and you're appreciative of this workshop to you, that's fine. So the Orphic hymn to Hecate, translated so it's Orphic hymn number 1 to Hecate, translated by Taylor, from the Greek hymns circa 3rd BC to 2nd AD. Hecate Enodia, Trioditis, lovely dame, of earthly, watery, and celestial frame, sepulchral, in a saffron veil arrayed, pleased with dark ghosts that wander through the shade. Persis, solitary goddess, hail, the world's key-bearer, never doomed to fail. in stags rejoicing, huntress nightly seen, and drawn by bulls, unconquerable queen. Leader, nymph, nurse, on mountains wandering, hear the supplicants, hear the suppliants with who with holy rites thy power revere, and to the herdsman with a favoring mind draw near. So that's her Orphic hymn. That's Orphic hymn number 1. But she shows up in some of the other hymns or theogony or theogony of Hesiod that we talked about briefly from the other sources as well. And if you got some chilly chills, and hopefully you got some chilly chills by hearing that read, sorry for the stumbling. Like, that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to make you feel. It's meant to forge a connection, and it's also meant to be pleasing to her as well. Because we always want to remember when we're working with deity, even if we created deity through the archetypes, we always want to be reverent, and we also want to realize that we're working with them. We're not commanding them. We're not, like, invoke is such a strange word to use, because it's just like it's more like we're welcoming them, like, come work with us, help us, be with us. So Dina says, lovely. Oh, good. I'm glad you're here, Dina. Good to see you. Again, please ignore anyone that is soliciting friend requests or reading requests. I am not associated with them. I do not know them. And if most of you have been viewing these episodes, you know that these spammers are ridiculous and stoop very low. Just please ignore them, block them. Do not work with them. Thank you. So Katie says, I have sung an Elizabethan song by John Donne that was a song about a love spell. It was comparing it to my Shakespeare high school English studies that I recognized it. And I find the invoke word to mean to me more about connecting with them in their energy. Exactly. Give me 1 second, everybody. I just want to try and get the reins on these spammers. Because, you never know. You never know who has good intentions or not. And I'm going to make sure I'm muting myself over here. Okay, yes, please. Hopefully that helps the situation. But please don't give anyone your money unless they're reputable, unless you know. And if you would like to book a reading with me, you can do so at tarotbyhilary.com. That is the only way to buy a reading with me and know that it's me. I will never solicit you for readings. I will never DM you. I will never go onto somebody else's page and say, friend request you for a reading or anything like that. So tarotbyhilary.com, that's the only way to book a reading with me. Sorry, guys. I knew I spoke too soon about the freaking spammers because we haven't had any problems in the last few months, and now they're all coming out of the woodwork. It's really super, super annoying, and it takes me away from doing what I'm supposed to be doing here, which is teaching you about Hecate. So it feels like the astrology that I described at the top of the episode is almost coming early. So yeah, let's keep going with Hecate. Hecate, torch-bearing goddess of the night, accompanied by a train of ghosts, and her passing was marked by the baying of hounds. She was perhaps also a goddess of the moon, or else of moonless, starlit nights. So we're talking about, so that Orphic hymn, again, circa third century BC to 2nd AD. So she'd been around for a very, very long time. So Hesiod, Theogony 404, translated by Evelyn White, Greek epic from the circa 8th or 7th century BC. Asteria, starry one, conceived and bare Hecate. She's mentioned there. In the Homeric hymn number 2 to Demeter, circa 7th or 6th BC, queenly Dio, Demeter, wandered over the earth with flaming torches in her hands after the abduction of Persephone. But when the 10th enlightening dawn had come, Hecate, with a torch in her hands, met her and sped her swiftly with her, holding flaming torches in her hands. So they came to Helios, the sun, and stood in front of his horses. So there's many mentions of Hecate in Sappho, in Bacchylides, Orphic hymn number 1, which I just read, Apollonius Rhodius, 3rd century BC, mentioning propitiating the only begotten maiden, Hecate, with a midnight offering, Brimo, nurse of youth, Brimo, night wanderer of the underworld, queen of the dead. So lots of mentions of Hecate and her many skills and uses and what she rules over. All right, I hope I got all of the spammers. Please ignore, please block, please ban. It's very helpful to me. I'm looking at all of these tags too. So, okay, so those are that's one way to work with Hecate. Now let's go with from otherworldlyoracle.com, 13 ways to work with the goddess of witchcraft, Hecate. I already told you a little bit about Hecate, and also the reason why they talk a little bit about, is Hecate dark? Many say she's a dark goddess, and it seems that her reputation precedes her. However, people forget she's a goddess of childbirth and life too. She helps heal women in need of reproductive healing and aids in the birthing process. She has as much light as is she dark. She encompasses all of these things. She is the polarity. Don't be afraid to work with her because of how others perceive her. This person that wrote this article says, I can tell you I've only had good healing experiences with her. That's not to say that she can't be John Donne. Yes. Hold on. Correction. John Donne. I knew my spelling was off. Yes. Not a problem. I'm probably butchering many of the pronunciations that I just said. So don't worry about it, Katie. So you know what I would really, really love is if I could ban people from from the feed using my third-party app. Oh well. Anyway, what that author was saying about, like, I've had only good healing experiences with her, and she is as much light as she is dark. Yes, that's true, and that's also the reason why I have renamed the Dark Goddess series the Goddess series, because I think it is that association with the taboo, and hearing other people work with Hecate. It's not to say that she is all dark or all light, but sometimes she can be harsh, and she can be exacting at times, especially if you're not listening to her. She'll smack you around, and it will be all for the good at the end of it, but during it, you're probably not going to feel that great about it. And I mean, she's just as capable of it as some of the other gods and goddesses that I've worked with. Like, I mean, there has been really funny stories of different people that work with different goddesses that personally frighten me, or I would be like, oh no, I don't work with her, that have been fearful of the goddess that I work with, that I'm dedicated to, that I'm in process of becoming a priestess of, Bridget. There is someone that works with the Morrigan, who I have a certain healthy respect for, that has said that Bridget absolutely terrifies her. And I'm just like, huh, interesting, because that's my goddess. So different strokes for different folks, people. Yep. Aspects of all gods and goddesses. Absolutely. Absolutely. So 13 ways to work with Hecate. Whether you've chosen Hecate as your matron goddess or not, she is a power deity to work with in your magical practice. She particularly loves witches, herbalists, diviners, healers, morticians, and midwives. So if you're any of these, you're in luck. And also, if you like the author of this article says, whether you've chosen her as your goddess or not, she is a powerful deity to work with. And I've also had experiences with Hecate as well, even though I am not dedicated to Hecate. And actually, I found a lot of people that work with Bridget, work very well with Hecate too. And sometimes Bridget and Hecate, they're just like, no, this is a two-hander. This is fine. This is good. Some of my personal experience with Hecate was I was actually in between, not sure. First of all, not sure if I would ever dedicate to any god or goddess because I didn't feel worthy, which I know is a very silly thing to think of now. And I'm kind of getting the laughing from my deity and also from Hecate. But just feeling that like no one wants me, or no god or goddess is going to want me, that kind of feeling, to having Hecate and Bridget kind of fighting over me, and I just didn't know which way to go or who it was going to be. And I finally just got the distinct impression, or this message from Bridget, directed at Hecate but also at me. It's just like, nope, that's fine, you can borrow her, but ultimately she's mine. So there is an understanding there where it's just like, you can borrow her if you need to, but this one's mine. And I've heard similar things from people that ended up becoming priests or priestesses of Hecate with Bridget. Like that Hecate Bridget connection, there's something there. There's something there where, you know, we're borrowing whatever works, right? The army analogy that I said before. It's just like whatever works. Maybe there's a reason for it. So there are many ways to work with the goddess of the Crossroads, but here are some of our favorites. 1, pronounce her name right. Oops. I don't, honestly, from my experience, she has not. Nah. She's never minded me calling her Hecate. So I don't necessarily agree with item number 1, but that's all right. The pronunciation of Hecate's name has been muddled or changed over the years, but there is a right way to say her name. Most say Hecate or Hecate. No, Hecate or Hecate, with no emphasis on the middle syllable. But in ancient times, her name would have been pronounced with emphasis on the middle syllable, like this: Hecate or Hecate. Practice that a few times out loud. Feel the difference? This is one simple way to honor the goddess of witches. Again, what was I just saying about pronunciations? How I've been butchering things. I don't personally agree, because either way, she knows I'm talking about her. She knows I'm not trying to be disrespectful. She knows that I'm being reverent and giving respect to her. I've heard it said several ways. I usually say Hecate. I can start to say Hecate. And sometimes I have said Hecate instead of Hecate during ritual. But that has been more natural rather than me having to force it. So don't necessarily agree with item number one, because as far as I know from my personal experience with her, she has never minded my pronunciation of her name. Just saying. You can feel free to disagree with me. Dedicated an altar space to her. Because Hecate is queen of the witches, she adores to have her own altar or altar space in a witch's home. Things you can add: a representation of her, like a statue, or a key, a cauldron, a knife, a broom, dog figurines, decor with stars and moons, anything with the colors black or red. Oh yeah, and I didn't mention her colors are normally black or red. Sometimes purple as well. I've normally seen black, red, purple. Cleanse and consecrate the space and the tools in Hecate's name. Altar offerings. Offerings are also a great way. Few offerings she likes: pomegranates, lavender, dishes with garlic. She loves garlic. She loves honeyed garlic, is like one of her favorite things. Whenever she's come through, she has devoured these honey garlic, and I think it's eggs with honey and garlic, when she's come through in trance prophecy, just devoured. And we usually do, if you happen to be a meat eater, we do normally bless a chicken, that we will then give a bit to bless a chicken, like have a blessing for the chicken before it is slaughtered and prepared. And some of that chicken is eaten in fellowship, but definitely some of that chicken is put aside on the altar for her to have. That's hers. That's just, again, personal experience, what we've done in our coven. So pomegranates, lavender, dishes with garlic. She loves garlic. I'm just telling you, garlic and honey. You're not going to go wrong with that. Date palms, eggs, honey, breads and sweets that are crescent shaped, candle flame, and incense. And you may also find different things that she also likes from your personal relationship to her. So see what happens, but those are more traditional offerings for her. But I'm telling you, she loves her garlic and honey. And there's a particular brand of red wine that she always asks for too. Apothic Red. She really likes Apothic Red. But one of the coincidences that we had, or the synchronicity or the magic, was when I went to get the red wine for her for Samhain, the local wine shop that I go to did not have Apothic Red. They didn't carry it. And so I looked on a shelf, and they also recommended a nice deep red. And so I brought it with me, and it turns out that it was almost like a wild vine on the label, but it matched up almost exactly with like the tree branches that were over the gates, that we had created for the Samhain ritual, like almost exactly in shape, and like it was crazy. But that's also one of the ways that that there's a communication there, or there's a like, yep, you got it. Like, yes, I accept this wine. And it was actually really lovely wine. So she liked that one. So now I'm going to have to remember that one instead if I can't find her Apothic Red. And also, for offerings, ask her what she would like. You would be really surprised at what happens when you just ask, or where you put a silent intention out there. What would you like? What would you like for me to put on the altar? Or what would you like for me to give to you? Sometimes the offering is not anything physical. Sometimes it could be a song or a poem. And that one of the songs that typically we sing at Samhain is Tori Amos's Carrie. We didn't happen to do it this year, only because Hecate came through half an hour early. and was very impatient to speak to everybody. So we didn't have time to do that particular song. But you'll find that even a simple glass of water can be effective as an offering. And this is not just a rule for Hecate. This is a rule with any deity that you're working with. Ask them what they would like, and you would be surprised. I do have a very funny story about when I was in Ireland in Kells, and I wanted to give an offering to Bridget, and she was very specific that she wanted cheese, but a certain type of cheese. And so I went to 3 different grocery stores on a wild cheese chase to find Bridget the cheese that she wanted. And, other people might think that's very crazy or that I'm a crazy person. But, if you've worked with deity before, when you know, and you know the difference between your own thought and when deity or spirits are speaking to you. So ask, so these are some ideas for offerings, but ask the deity that you're working with. They'll trust me, they'll answer. Ritual at the crossroads is another way to work with her because she is the ruler of the crossroads. Rituals done at crossroads honor and invoke her energy. If you live in an urban area, it may be hard to find a 3-way crossroads to perform the ritual. In this case, you can mark out a 3-way crossroads on the ground with large branches as a symbolic crossroads. Otherwise, candle spells, invocations, and offerings at 3-way crossroads are a powerful way to call on her. Number 5, canine care. Hecate's most sacred and loved animal is the dog. When you take care of our canine friends, you can do so in Hecate's name. She will bless you and your dogs or any dogs you care for. You can also call on Hecate to protect your dog from harm. And if you can't have a dog, you can donate your time and/or old blankets, dog food, etc., to a local animal shelter and tell Hecate you're doing it in her name. That's actually a lovely way to work with her. Oh boy, more spammies. Excuse me while I'm gonna refresh this, see if I can block these people. It's getting really annoying, folks. All right, those aren't coming up, so. Hold on. All right. I see. It's coming through YouTube. Wonderful. Lovely. I will take care of that. All right, so canines, doggos, as it were, those hounds of Hecate, take care of those hounds and do so in Hecate's name. That's a great way. Feasts for Hecate, fun and traditional way to honor her is to hold a dinner party or feast for her. In ancient times, Hecate's priestesses held large parties in her name and made her favorite foods. You got to include lavender, honey, eggs, and garlic in your dishes. And red wine. There it is, red wine. Red wine and mead are traditional. That would be the reason why she asked specifically for her red wine. Set a place at the table for your goddess or set a plate at her altar. Celebrate Hecate with a feast on her sacred days. Her sacred days are August 13th and or November 30th. Studying herbs is another way to honor her. She's the goddess of witchcraft and was specifically known for her herbal knowledge. Sources say that there was a sacred garden dedicated to Hecate at her temple in Colchis, modern-day Georgia. This garden would have contained her sacred trees, herbs, and poisons. Study medicinal and magical herbalism and become one of Hecate's priestesses. By growing and harvesting your own herbs, you're recreating Hecate's garden. Hold on one second. Let me deal with spammers. Hold on one second. Okay. I think I've taken care of that. All right, cool. Dark moon rituals. The most powerful time to invoke Hecate in ritual is during a dark moon. Healing, banishing, and cleansing rituals in Hecate's name during a dark moon are especially potent. Divination, particularly to speak with Hecate, is amplified during the dark moon. If you're looking for examples of dark moon rituals, I can share that link later. Also, another thing that Hecate is known for, I don't know if it's necessarily a personal knowledge or personal experience, but I'm not sure if this is necessarily traditional or not. But I've noticed we've had rituals where we have used a mirror that is dedicated to Hecate, and we've called it Hecate's mirror. And oftentimes during ritual, especially a ritual that we've done trans prophecy and Hecate has come through, we have given her mirror to hold. And it is a dark mirror. I think it's a regular mirror, though, reflective mirror. And she holds it up to people when she needs to show them who they are. And to, I don't know, it's just a powerful tool that Hecate uses sometimes. And it's almost, I wouldn't say it's necessarily divinatory in nature, but sometimes it really can be. That reflection is used to show, to clarify. So that's another symbol that I associate with Hecate, is Hecate's mirror. Spirit work in a cemetery, again, be careful. Don't trespass. Don't take anything unless you ask spirits to do so. Because she is the goddess of life and death, she is also protector and gatekeeper of the spirit realm. Her presence is felt in cemeteries as well as in birthing centers and hospitals. If you're brave enough and understand how to protect yourself, spirit work in the cemetery is another way to honor Hecate, but please be careful. This isn't a practice for beginners or for fun. Be reverential, be respectful, and if you're going to do that, know what you're getting into when you do that. Because sometimes you take stuff home with you. So just, I also wouldn't recommend that for beginners either. Another way to work with Hecate, in offerings by the door. In ancient times, Hecate's devotees left offerings to her and her hounds outside by their door. You can honor Hecate and her hounds by doing the same. Leave an offering for Hecate and one of her dogs. Locate the dog star. This is something fun to do in Hecate's honor. Locate Sirius, the dog star, in the night sky. Use a mobile app like Skyview to locate Sirius, and if you can see it with the naked eye, gaze at it a while. Feel Hecate's energy radiating down from the night sky and pulsing through your veins. The star Sirius is her sacred star. Working with her allies. By working with and getting to know the Witch Queen's allies, you honor her. Study and invoke any or all of the following: Medea, Circe, Cybele, Artemis, Diana, Persephone, Demeter, and Dionysus. And then 13, doing things in 13s. The goddess of witchcraft's sacred number is 13. If you want to honor her, perform ritual steps in 13 steps. Offer 13 flowers to her. Give elaborate offerings or do ritual on the 13th of each month in her name. Say your prayers 13 times. Do what works for you. All right. Any questions? Because we've really deep dived into Hecate, and actually I thought this episode was going to be shorter, but it's not. So let me know by writing it into the chat. I swear I'm seeing the real people from the fake people or the spam bots. I know who the real people are who've been interacting on this episode already. got my eyes out for you. I'm not going to lose your comments. I'm watching everything. So if you have any additional questions, please let me know. Now's the time to ask. And if I don't know, I'm going to say I don't know, or you can do further research into it. Before we move on to some of the best books on Hecate. And then we'll end the episode with the weekend forecast. So I'm going to give you a minute. I'm going to hydrate. Awesome. Katie is saying, I'm thinking I'll be reading those links you put up. I definitely will put up some links. Maybe not tonight. I'll probably do it separately and include that link to my website and do it in a separate page, only because of the spammerific kind of stuff. And I don't want to be then flagged as a spammer by like listing all of these linkings. But Keeping Her Keys was the one that I cited from the most. So I'll probably include that and the article on 13 ways to work with Hecate, and probably the Orphic hymn as well. But definitely, I gotcha. Oh, do I? Do I want to tell you more about my experiences of connecting with Hecate? I think I already cited a few examples. But oftentimes when I work with a deity, the I've had these experiences where if I try to explain to somebody else the connections and the craziness and the synchronicities, I come off looking like Charlie Day in like the conspiracy theory meme where he's got like his shirt sleeves pulled up and he's got this whole like web of intrigue behind him and he's like that's kind of how I feel when I talk about working with deities and spirit, where it just like it becomes this like rabbit hole, and I don't know if I'm necessarily conveying like how significant all of the different detours are. So I can, but it's just like, I feel like I come off as a crazy person when I do so. Like I've got a lot of experiences connecting with Bridget, and I've got a bunch of experiences connecting with Hecate. Like for the wine was a great example. Like it looked like there was the label on the bottle, and then there was the branches that we used for the gates that Cerberus and the hounds of Hecate were guarding. And it was an exact match, like down to the shaping. It is exactly. And of course, I'm not going to be able to remember the exact brand of wine that I found. I'll remember the label. But like one for one, it was just crazy. And that's just one example. Another example, I've actually taken the chair and brought through Hecate. And she likes to play with words a lot. She really enjoys trans prophecy because it feels like I'm back. And she gets to enjoy these wonderful things that humans get to enjoy. And she typically gets like, she picks out. It's just like, oh, this is for me, and this is for me, and this one needs to do this, and this one, I talked to this one already. And it's very much like, oh, mom's home, you know. She wants to, she's very orientated towards justice as well. Like I do remember when she came through me that she like wanted to call people that I have no business calling. Like I do remember one time, and it wasn't Hecate that came through. I think it was Bridget that came through. Not me, but somebody else. And I think I remember that person saying, like, she wanted me to call the president. And I had to explain to her, I can't call the president. Because she had a few things to say to him. And I'm like, that sounds about right. But Hecate definitely, like, the wine, the garlic, the empowerment of people too, and the disenfranchisement of people, and very orientated towards justice and equality, and making us remember and recognizing how powerful we really are ourselves, and that we can always ask for her help or deity's help, that it's always there. And this was not the time that she came through me. This is Samhain that she came through somebody else, and she basically yelled at us for not asking for her help. It's just like, you don't ask us for help for the little things, and you don't ask us for help for the big things either. You don't ask for help, and we're here to help you. So that's the thing that she was most adamant about the last time she came through. And also, like, reminding us, like, yes, the veil is thinnest now, but you can talk to me anytime. Like, we're always here for you. And that's a message that a lot of the gods and goddesses have given us over the years, is that, like, how to empower ourselves, how to ask for help, how to ask them for help, that that we exist for them, but they exist for us, I'm getting a little bit choked up here, but yeah, those are my experiences of connecting with Hecate. There's really tons of examples that I can't think of all of them right now. And some of them are more personal than others, but I do feel like there's so many synchronicities that happen that it's just like, it can't be anything else. It's just so, just insanely personal and just wild, so wild that it can't be coincidence. Yeah, exactly. Tweet that comment to the president and get blocked. LOL. I think this is at the time that Obama was in office, actually. So I don't know if it would necessarily have been welcomed or not, but like there's no way to, like, my lady, there is no way to get to him. I cannot call him. I cannot call the president of the United States. Like, trying to explain how being a human works doesn't necessarily, work. Uh, all right. Let's see. Does that answer your question? I mean, like, I'm sure I have way more personal experiences, but also the spammers are out in force right now. And, remember that astrology that I said at the top of the episode, where things get dicey around 8:46. Yeah, I'm not courting disaster. I'm not trying to court disaster. So let's get into the book recommendations for Hecate. So I am going to link to this link to Enchantments NYC, which is a very well-known occult bookstore in New York City. They've got some really great carved candles too. Their candle magic is unbelievable. But I'll give you this list first. Entering Hecate's Garden by Cindy Brannon. A Pharmakia Guide to Botanicals Associated with the Goddess Hecate, Bringing Pharmakia, or the Practice of Plant Spirit Witchcraft to Modern Times. Hecate, Her Sacred Fires, collection of essays and artworks on the goddess from writers and practitioners from all over the world, with an introduction by editor Sarita de Este. 300-page book explores ways to work with and honor the primordial triple goddess, rituals, histories, timelines and conditions, personal narratives. Hecate, Liminal Rites, by Sarita Dieste and David Rankine, retraces the goddess of the Crossroads, ancient provenance and origin stories. Compact a compact version of the anthology is Hecate Keys to the Crossroads, also by Sarita d'Este. Dark Goddess Craft by Stephanie Woodfield. But those are many faces of the Dark Goddess, not just limited to Hecate. And Circle for Hecate, also by Sarita d'Este. So I'll put the link here. Before I put the link up, I'm going to say Katie's comment, which I agree with. I think it's good that these gods and goddesses remind us that we should connect to them when we need them, not just to celebrate their days, but to celebrate our connections to them and how they can help us. Exactly. When that faded, did that fade in and out? I guess that was one of the... Ooh! I didn't know we've got a scrolling option now on comments, guys. You can see the whole thing. Very cool. And that's one that I'm glad that we can showcase here. So yes, that's a wonderful comment, and I think that's exactly their point. That they come through to tell us they're here for us and us for them. You know, like that. We can't get the help from them if we don't ask for the help from them. You know. Okay, let me post that list from Enchantments NYC. I'm going to go ahead and display it here. So it's just enchantmentsnyc.com, and I'm sure you can navigate accordingly once you're on the main URL. And it's also in the chat for different places and spaces. So that's some recommended reading. Also, I would be remiss to not mention Hecate, Goddess of Witches by Courtney Weber, who is my friend. And she also wrote Bridget and the Morrigan as well. So it is an informed and accessible journey through the lore and history of Hecate, the ancient goddess of the Crossroads, ghosts, and witchcraft, and reflects on Hecate's relevance today. Tools and techniques for incorporating this goddess into your personal journey round out the book. And I would definitely recommend, and I'm going to display that too. Oh, wrong one. I'm going to display the Amazon link, but please get that book wherever you go. Shop independently, shop your independent bookstores. They need your help. But it is called Hecate, Goddess of Witches by Courtney Weber. Especially if you're looking on that looking for that personal connection, because this is similar to her other works. I can't speak to the Hecate book because I haven't read the Hecate book, but I have read the Bridget book cover to cover to cover because that's my that's my goddess. And from what I understand of the Bridget book, like it envelops basically everything that I was talking about, where it's just like you've got the history, you've got the ancient, and then you've got mythology, and then you've got your personal connections with the god or the goddess. So similar to her other works, Weber strikes a balance between the scholarly and the spiritual. Her explanation of Hecate combines solid research with practical modern applications. The spiritual content is accessible to anyone with an interest in witchcraft, regardless of faith or background. Each chapter focuses on a different aspect of Hecate, exploring original mythology, historical context, and contemporary connotations, concluding with spells and personal rituals. The final chapter is a grimoire full of rituals, offerings, and other practices designed to help readers align themselves with this extraordinary goddess. The book also explores magical ethics, what it means to be a witch in the 21st century, and the best practices for successful witchcraft. And also, I think it has a 5-star review, mostly 5-star reviews, 90% 5-star reviews. And the shitty reviews are often the most ill-informed, as I've tended to find out, or people haven't even read the damn book. They just assume. So highly recommend that you pick up, I mean, any of the books that Courtney has done. If you're looking to forge a relationship with Bridget, get her Bridget book. If you're forming a relationship with Hecate, get her Hecate book. The Morrigan, get the Morrigan book. I'm telling you, it is a wonderful blend of the historical, the research, and modern practice and spirituality and personal connections that you can forge with these deities. So I think that's it, everybody. I got a lot more in depth than I thought I was going to, and I realized I do know a lot more about Hecate than I realized. So I'm really glad to bring this episode to you, and thank you for those viewers that have suggested the Goddess series. I can't wait to see what's next. We might do Bridget next, only because that's my goddess. But I am open to suggestions for gods or goddesses that you're looking to get more information at. And whatever I don't know, I will find out about, or I will say, please do your own personal research, delve a little bit deeper. Because I'm telling you, those personal connections are really the connections that make your spiritual practice what it is or what it will become. It's really no substitute. You know, it makes the dry or the mundane or reading a book, it makes the gods and the goddesses and deity come alive for you and forge that personal connection. All right. Are we ready for the weekend forecast? I need to hydrate again before I grab some divination tools, but we got to make it short, folks, because the astrological weather is about to turn, if it hasn't already, with all these spammers and scammers. Yeesh. You know what? I'm going to go with one of my new decks. See, this is the problem with Hay House having a sale. New decks for me. So Katie says, thank you for all this information and sharing of your experiences. You're very welcome, Katie. And thank you for being one of the people that suggested the Goddess series, because I'm pretty sure it was you, among other people. New deck, wahoo! This is what happens when Hay House has a sale. They had a sale on Oracle decks, I think, or any of their decks, 50% off. Oh, I jumped on it. You know I jumped on it. So I actually only ordered 2 decks, which is unheard of for me. I get a little bit crazy, and I've actually been really, really good. I haven't been buying any new decks, and the new decks that I've gotten before. Where are you going? What are you doing? Huh? Oh, you're not playing games anymore? No, not right now. Oh, okay. I kind of wanted to play Lego Star Wars or something silly. No? Yes, I'm still on my live stream. All right, take your walk. We'll talk about it later. Yes. So, oh my, you restricted yourself to only 2 decks. Well, okay, here's the thing though, because I did get some reviewer copies of 2 tarot decks. So, technically speaking, I have 4 new decks. But I only paid for 2. So, does that count? Does that count? Don't answer that question. And I hope Mr. Tarot by Hilary is not listening to that. But yes, 4 new decks, 2 of them I paid for. 2 of them are reviewer copies. So yeah, I got, and if that's self-control, then that's, I guess, really sad. So the 2 decks that I got as reviewer copies, and I really do have to do a review because I finished up with that as the deck of the month, was the Relative Tarot by Carrie Paris. So I used that for the month of November, not as much as I wanted to, but I did use it enough that I can give an accurate review of it. And it had a lot more of birth card and constellation information in it, and like soul imprint information in it than I expected it to be. Like, I don't know if the Relative Tarot is necessarily a misnomer for what the deck is or how the guidebook was structured. So this is like a really quick and dirty, like, quasi review, but I'll go in more depth in my written review on my site. So that was the first deck. And then the second deck is the one that I'm using for the deck of the month for this month. And yes, I did not do a card of the day today because it was a little bit crazy today. But I am using Tarot for Kids by Teresa Reed, illustrations by Kaylee Whitman. So this is a gorgeous deck, folks, though. This is the size. It is, I know that tarot cards are a little bit bigger than playing card size, and I understand that, but this is like taller and then also a little bit wider than I was expecting. But it's a really, really beautiful deck. Some name changes as well, because it is Tarot for Kids. So instead of death, I think it's either change or transformation. I think it's change. It could be transformation. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it's really gorgeous. You've got the 3 of Cups for the cover image, and the guidebook is really wonderful too. So this is the deck of the month for December. But anyway, shut up, Hilary. Let's get to the weekend forecast. So the 2 new decks that I got that are not tarot decks, and in fact, I can't even say that they're oracle decks. They're more affirmation decks, because I've been really into Gabby Bernstein lately, and the stuff that she's been teaching, some of her books. I'm also a member of her Miracle membership and also her Spirit Junkie Masterclass. I don't know. For some reason, the messages that weren't speaking to me, I don't know, 2 years ago, 4 years ago, are now really resonating with me now. I'm very into her. And that's also aligns with something that I've said before, in this series and also with my tarot clients. Sometimes if you're not ready to hear the message, it's not going to resonate for you. And sometimes you have to hear the message several different times in different ways from different people in order for it to finally hit you. But you're never going to internalize a message or really hear a message that you're not ready to hear. So really vibing with Gabby Bernstein now, though. So the 2 decks that I got were her Spirit Junkie 52 card deck and her, oh gosh, I can't remember the other one. It might have been her Miracles Now deck. I don't know, but it's in my purse, so I can't remember which one I got. I wanted to get all 3 of the ones that I didn't have, but one of them was sold out. Oh no, it wasn't the Miracles. No, Miracles Now I had Miracles Now already. This one's Miracles Now. I had Miracles Now already. I've got the Spirit Junkie one, and I think it's the Super Attractor deck. Can't remember how many cards are in that too, but oh well. So we've done the 62 card Miracles Now affirmation deck before, and the Spirit Junkie one is closest to hand. My Super Attractor deck is in my purse. So we're going to go with the Spirit Junkie 52 card deck. I can't say it's an oracle deck because I don't really feel like it's an oracle deck. This is more of an affirmation deck. And I think the Super Attractor deck is also an affirmation deck. So keeping that in mind, It's not quite oracle. It's not tarot. It is an affirmation deck. So, and probably doesn't need any translation or any interpretation either. So let's go. What do we most need to know for this weekend? And it's got that nuke deck smell, which I love. Actually, this aligns pretty well with what we were talking about with Hecate's messages from my own personal experiences. So I think that's pretty great. So this deck, again, this is the Spirit Junkie deck by Gabrielle Bernstein, and the art is by Michaela Ezra. So the words are from Gabby, the art is from Michaela. So given what I told you about Hecate's messages and my personal experiences with her, the card for this weekend is, I am committed to bringing forth my greatness. I will no longer play small. And I'm going to keep that up there for a little while so I can maybe make it my thumbnail. So no real interpretation to say for that besides, remember that this weekend that you don't have to hide. You don't have to play small. Sometimes this weekend might require some brave action. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And also we have our Yule celebration this weekend. So that kind of aligns too. So that is the weekend forecast. I thank you all so much for joining me. Just a reminder of the different episodes that we've got coming up this month. There's only one more episode, and it's the final episode of 2021. We are talking about Yule, which is part of the Sabbath series. Final show of 2021, folks, so you don't want to miss it. We will be off the next 2 Fridays after that in celebration of Christmas Eve and also New Year's Eve. And our first show of 2022 is going to be on Friday, January 7th. But I'll remind you again about that after our Yule episode. So please tune in Friday, 12/17 for our Yule episode, part of the Sabbath series. I thank you so much for watching. I thank you for suggesting the Sabbath, the Goddess series. I hope to be many more. I also hope that your Yule celebration is excellent for those of you celebrating Yule. And again, I want to remind everybody that these episodes normally take place every Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless otherwise stated. So that I just gave you the schedule. So otherwise stated, we've already stated. Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, we will not be having a show because probably no one's going to tune in. And also, I want to chill out and relax and celebrate, right? So Fridays, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I hope to see you for our Sabbath series Yule episode. And why did I take that down instead of the crawler? Oops. So Dina says, thank you. And Katie says, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend to everyone. And I'm just going to remind you one more time where to find me. If you would like to book a tarot reading, you can totally do so. tarotbyhilary.com right there. That's the only way to book a reading with me. And remember, I will never, ever solicit you in DMs or private messages to have you book a reading with me. You have to book a reading with me. I never, ever solicit readings privately. I never chase clients down. It's usually the other way around. So I again am Hilary, professional tarot reader, demystifying the mystical and putting you in touch with the most beautiful of gifts, your own intuition. Because yes, my friends, do not argue with me. You have intuition. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope to see you next Friday for Yule, which is part of the Sabbath series. Until then, have a great weekend and a great week. Bye.